Okay, so I'm going to be giving my, I guess you could say, 2 cents for whatever the hell it's worth on the US Amps Timbres. Now, for anybody that knows, I'm big on US Amps. Anybody that knows it. But that does not mean I will hold bias for any thoughts and opinions I have. Because again, if anybody understands the kind of guy I am, I have my favorites, but I still pull no punches on my opinions. As Mike would say, don't forget to fill that out. But seriously, I would say don't forget to fill that out when you get these and send it back. You know, very old school way of a warranty, but you know, old school company, old people running it. Nah, I'm just playing. I'm not gonna bust balls. That's not nice. So, first thing you'll notice, nice covering top, plastic cover top, so things don't get crushed, which I really like. I'll start on the crossovers. I'll try to do this one-handed. I don't have one of them fancy head or chest mount things for a phone, so I'm doing this all kind of one-handed as best as I can. Come on. Now, to my understanding, this has the ability to be able to handle the full power of the SQ442, because a common issue with many crossovers with component sets is they are not able to handle much power before they run hot. The caps blow in them, resistors pop. It just, issues happen. You know what I mean? But most crossovers really aren't really designed to push much power, because the component set they're pushing isn't really designed to take much power anyway. So it's kind of like a case-to-case subjective basis on the brand or component set you're having question. First thing I notice, I'll say this, besides the gold-plated terminals, is the thickness of the PCB. If anybody understands that, that's beefy. That's very beefy. So it tells me this thing was not built on the cheap cheap side, with just profits in mind, which I respect. Now, I'm not going to sit here and speak on things I don't really understand, because again, I can just offer my 2 cents. I don't think there's much of a difference on what brand stuff they use for the capacitors and filtering. I'm sure there is. Maybe Mike can touch on that, but I'm pretty sure it's not like you gotta shove Nichicon in here to be worth it. Yeah, there's a big misunderstanding about whether Nichicon's worth a shit or not. Everybody associates it from, the old school amps, but, that's kind of what was always available back then. There wasn't 1,001 capacitor brands like we have today, which I could probably list 5 off the top of my head that are definitely seen in many common boards and things that are complete cheap junk. But, this ain't a video to bash. So, I digress. Come on. There we go. Of course, if anybody has a common knowledge or very observative on other brand speakers, you're going to recognize that basket. The whole frame of it. I know it's been used on the NVX component series, which uses a ferrite, not a neo, but same basket, to my understanding. They look the same to me. Does that mean anything bad? No. How many brands out there use them little hockey puck neo design motor that you've seen 1,001 companies use? Nobody says nothing about that, so I'm not going to say anything about them using a basket design that I've seen on another brand. To me, why try to make something custom and cause more cost if this basket, frame, tooling, whatever, works just fine, works perfect. So I'm not going to sit there and bash that. Because again, to my understanding, cone, surround, and spider motor, that's going to matter the more than insert basket design. But I got to talk a little bit of crap. Them little hockey puck, little Neo motors that you see 1001 brands, that's played out. China catalog to the fullest. They can hate me for saying that. Well, you know, when I see 1001 brands using the same hockey puck design, hey, my eyes aren't deceived. I'm literally looking at 1001 brands use that same hockey puck Neo design, which I give credit to other brands that introduce different basket styles, motor design, something more proprietary. I'm all for it. So first thing you'll notice is kind of like this ribbed, I don't know if I want to call that really a ribbed surround, but it's kind of in its own sense. Very unique looking. Carbon fiber, actually feels like carbon fiber, not like vinyl printed plastic. So that's something awesome. Which I also noticed this kind of like a foam protection on the bottom, which I'm going to assume, and maybe Mike or someone at US Amps can correct me if I'm wrong, that would help not make it conductive to the cone. Because if I remember correctly, again, correct me if I'm wrong, carbon fiber is conductive. So I believe that's what that is there for. Again, I'm not a speaker designer, nor do I build audio equipment. I only build lithium batteries, so I try not to speak on stuff I really have not much knowledge on. But this is, again, my opinion as a consumer who's buying these. So take what you want out of it. The spider definitely looks well done, well proper. The floating leads, tinsel leads, I've seen that multiple times on many other speakers. So, again, that's just what I see. I'm not going to sit here and say that's a good thing or a bad thing. But overall, weight-wise, sturdiness, construction-wise, these feels very solid. Very solid. Very, very, very solid. My only gripe that I really have to start getting into where I got to be like, I don't know about all that, are these. Okay, so as you can see, there's like what looks like a little bit of a red mark on there. Now, I'm not a big fan of these spade terminal styles. I've never really been, but I will say this. They don't look flimsy and cheap. They aren't like made out of pot metal. So I'm putting some pressure on there and it's not bending. I've seen plenty of speakers where it looks like it's made out of pot metal, zinc, or insert whatever cheap junk China metal they came up with out of the recycling bin. Made spade terminals out of it. Very well constructed. I like how they kind of inserted it into this kind of like PCB piece to kind of keep it from shifting, because a lot of cheap ones, they shift until they snap. So I will say that this is for a spade terminals, which I do not like, just my opinion. These are built solid, very solid. My next gripe would be more than just that little red sliver telltale. They could put a little red heat shrink right here, black heat shrink, something to give more pronounced polarity identification instead of just that. That's my first gripe so far of just the mids of what I've seen. Outside of that, I've seen the video of them playing down to 20 hertz. I do not know the power that was being sent to that speaker. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you or inflate or bogus and pull something out of my ass. I'm just going to tell you right now as it stands, that was impressive. Beyond impressive. Because as someone, again, I pull no punches. I am big on US Amps, but I'm pretty sure you see on the bottom of this box, it's frequency response. I'm going to be real. I questioned that. But for real, I questioned it. Because I'm like, yeah, I've never seen a mid-range really play that low. And the very few that do claim it don't do it well. Or they bottom out. Or it may be able to play it, but it's at like 5 watts. with a 24 dB slope. As for the tweeters, very solid. I like the design. I like the housing. The wiring isn't some flimsy, cheap, looks like some CCA wire, which again I've seen on plenty of tweeters. Now, of course, it's small wiring. They don't need a lot of power. But I will say, the integrity is there. I can't open that one-handed, so I'm going to try to get the best I can through the plastic. I really love the grills. If I had to critique the grills a little bit, I would say I would wanted the front face piece to kind of match the shininess of the outside aluminum ring. But it has more of a brushed, kind of like a stainless look to it, stainless steel look. Again, that's just my preference. That doesn't mean there's bad. These are amazing. But if I had to gripe, and I'm just a consumer and I'm offering unbiased opinions, I'd have preferred them a little shinier, on the shiny side. Again, is that really something to really complain about? No. But, hey, I was asked to do a video on this and give a complete unbiased opinion of it all. So with that being said, considering you get the tweeter, I believe, let me correct myself. So I think the woofer for the 6.5 and then the 8-inch set is a completely different size. I believe so. I have an 8-inch set. I'd have to cross-reference and check that, but I believe it's a whole different size. So on to the 8-inch. Kind of no different than what you see here. But again, if I'm basing this off of what you're paying, what you're getting, what I've seen so far, and I'll be giving them an update when these are in my doors on how well they perform, clarity, mid-bass, digging low, just overall with the best staging I can try to pull off with my 04 DeVille, which will have 1.8 and 2 6.5 per door. These tweeters on the 8-pillar along with the woofers. So I'm trying to, give it a fair shake. Again, kind of just a larger version of the smaller woofer. But again, I will say that the structural integrity is there. And like I said, when I said I don't like these, again, that's just my personal opinion. That does not mean they're bad. So I'll try to, you can see it dig into my skin there. It doesn't really flex. So they're built solid. That I'm happy with. This, I can get over that they use these with the fact that it's not built, and I'm, excuse my language, built like ass cheeks. Like some cheap pot metal China crap. So with that being said, I'm really impressed with them using those and not, you know what I mean, shortchanging on the quality. Because I'm a quality driven guy. Cheap watts and cheap looking fancy speakers do not impress me. Sound quality is everything. These could have had this whole encased and I've never seen a gold motor, and as long as they performed like they say they're supposed to, I'd buy them. Because again, you'll never see these unless you got some fancy clear door panels or whatever. But still, my stance is always going to be quality over budget, cheap, what everybody else runs. Hence why I chose US Amps for my build. So based on everything I see here, for the price point, considering if you're a guy who was like, yo, I'm not that great at tuning, and you want to use the crossovers and the power handling, utilizing their SQ442 or another brand, amp, whatever, I would have to say this is probably about as good as you're going to get before you start reaching into the realm of gimmicks. And gimmicks to me are companies that are just expensive based on the name and the cars they throw them in. I don't want to throw brands out there and bash, but I got to give my opinion. There's a couple. $1,200, $1,300, $1,500 for a component set. I've heard a few at a local shop. For the price they want, I'm not impressed. In the littlest, I'm not impressed paying over $1,000 for a set of speakers that I've heard $300 speakers wipe the floor with them. And that's going off quality, sound quality, depth, warmth, frequency response. I don't care but they're loud. Yeah, so are super tweeters and a lot of other budget mids that sound like pure ass cheeks no matter what you do to try to make them sound good or throw band-aids and DSPs at them. They sound horrendous. It sounds like you literally stuck a mid-woofer like this and stuck a Pringles can on top of it and it's trying to use the Pringles can to project its audio. I know, hell of an analogy, but I'm just being real. It just sounds so hollow. The voice sounds like it's coming through an old school Nokia phone with a speakerphone on. Like, it's horrendous. Now, I will say this as someone who also owns several other speaker brands, and again, I'm not going to throw their names out there, that are more on the higher end of what they offer. Also, Neo. If I had to be an open book, I will say I would put these above them, but also say that for the price point of the other Neos I have that were going to go in my build, they sound amazing for the price. But this is if you want elite sound quality. This is if you want true R&D, not let me throw the same whatever together, same hockey puck Neo motor, insert whatever China catalog spider they have, and then I pump it out to you for $50 a mid-range. Oh, but it can handle 200 watts and it gets loud. Again, it sounds like ass getting loud. It doesn't sound clean. It sounds like almost like you shoved stunt wall cheap commandos, and I will talk crap on some brands now at this point, but yeah. I have to take a shot. I absolutely despise PRV and Commando. The most horrendous sounding speakers I've ever heard in my life. But why people love them? Because they're cheap. And what comes with being cheap is cheap quality and cheap sound and everything that goes with it. So, nothing underneath. My only next gripe would be no US Amps sticker came with this. Come on, Mike. We need US Amps stickers coming with this stuff. That's my only gripe, I guess, for the speakers. Terminals. And I guess if I wanted to be anal and be like, well, you used another company's or another brand's basket design. Like, okay, oh well. So does everybody, pretty much. Like, so, could I really try to be a douche and try to, like, pick it apart for every little con I wanted to? Yes, but in reality, I know the reality of the market we're in with audio and all these companies. I want y'all to understand that you got to find that happy medium, whether you're just an SPL guy that just wants doors to keep up with your bass, or you someone that wants sound quality, staging, performance, and everything to blend. And if you're that guy, this is it. This is Brandon at Trunk Thunder Lithium. Hope this kind of gives you a better idea what you would get your hands on if you buy these. But again, at the end of the day, I'm going with what has been proven. Mike has definitely proven to me the abilities of these component sets, what they're capable of doing, the power they can handle, and just the quality behind them, the money that's been put behind them to offer a superior product over XYZ who share the same basket, motor design, dust cat, whatever. You know, just insert, let me slap a new label on here and call this Trunk Thunder Mids. Hurry up and buy. It's kind of what I see anymore. Let me slap my logo on here, throw it in a new China box that they built for me. Here you go, hurry up and buy. Y'all have a good day.